You are standing beneath the blazing Egyptian sun. Workers are climbing stone walls. Priests are scraping away sacred names that have existed for centuries. Statues are being smashed. Temples are being emptied. And all across Egypt, one command is spreading from city to city: forget the old gods. It sounds impossible. Ancient Egypt is famous for having hundreds of gods and goddesses. Ra, Osiris, Isis, Horus, Amun. Their images covered temple walls. Their stories shaped daily life. Their priests held enormous power. Yet one pharaoh attempted something no ruler before him had ever dared. He tried to erase almost every god in Egypt and replace them with a single divine power. The strange part is that for a brief moment it almost worked. Most people imagine ancient Egypt as a civilization that never changed. Massive pyramids, eternal traditions, unchanging beliefs. But the Egypt of the 14th century BCE was a place of wealth, political competition, and religious influence. At the center of that influence stood the god Amun. Amun was not simply a religious figure. His temples controlled vast amounts of land. His priests managed enormous resources. The temple complex at Karnak grew into one of the largest religious centers in the ancient world. By the time a young prince named Amenhotep IV came to power, the cult of Amun had become incredibly powerful. Then everything changed. Soon after becoming pharaoh, Amenhotep IV began promoting a different deity known as Aten. Aten was represented not as a human figure or animal-headed god, but as the visible disk of the sun. In Egyptian art, rays of sunlight stretched downward from the sky, ending in tiny hands that offered life and blessings. At first, this seemed like just another religious emphasis. Egyptian rulers often favored certain gods. Why would this be different? Because Amenhotep IV did not stop with promotion. He gradually elevated Aten above every other deity. Then he took an even more shocking step. He changed his own name. Amenhotep meant Amun is satisfied. The new pharaoh abandoned that identity and became Akhenaten, meaning roughly effective for Aten. Even his name now declared loyalty to a different divine power. The evidence for this transformation survives in inscriptions, temples, and archaeological discoveries studied by researchers such as Barry Kemp, whose work at Amarna has revealed extraordinary details about this period. Archaeologists have pieced together a story that still surprises historians today. Akhenaten began attacking the influence of Amun directly. Names of Amun were removed from monuments. Images connected to traditional worship disappeared. Temples dedicated to older gods lost royal support. Across parts of Egypt, evidence suggests systematic efforts to weaken established religious traditions. Imagine what this looked like from the perspective of an ordinary Egyptian. You have spent your entire life honoring familiar gods. Your parents taught you prayers. Your village celebrated festivals. Your understanding of death, protection, fertility, and justice depended on a complex network of divine beings. Then suddenly the king announces that the religious world you inherited is no longer acceptable. Would you obey? Would you believe him? Akhenaten believed he possessed a unique relationship with Aten. In surviving artwork, he appears alongside his family beneath the sun disk. The rays of Aten reach toward them directly. Ordinary people are rarely shown receiving the same connection. The pharaoh and his household seem to act as intermediaries between humanity and the divine. This was radically different from traditional Egyptian religion. For centuries, people interacted with many gods who fulfilled different roles. Farmers prayed for successful harvests. Families sought protection. Travelers requested safe journeys. The spiritual world felt close and personal. Akhenaten's new system concentrated attention on Aten and placed the royal family at the center of religious life. Then came one of his boldest decisions. He abandoned the traditional centers of power and built an entirely new capital city. Today the site is known as Amarna. Ancient inscriptions called it Akhenaten, meaning horizon of Aten. Built in a relatively untouched region between Memphis and Thebes, the city was designed specifically for the new religion. According to discoveries documented by archaeologists and institutions including the University of Oxford and extensive excavations at Amarna, the city appeared with remarkable speed. Temples, palaces, residences, workshops, and administrative buildings rose from the desert. Picture the scene. Fresh white stone gleams beneath the sun. New roads stretch across the landscape. Officials relocate their households. Artists receive new instructions. Priests of older gods lose influence. Everywhere you look, the imagery of Aten dominates public life. Even the art changed. Traditional Egyptian artwork usually presented rulers in idealized forms. Bodies appeared strong and timeless. Akhenaten's artistic style broke many conventions. He was depicted with an elongated face, narrow shoulders, wide hips, and unusual proportions. His family appeared in intimate scenes. Children sat on laps. Royal couples embraced beneath the rays of Aten. Historians continue debating exactly why this artistic revolution occurred. Was it symbolic, religious, political, a combination of all three? The answer remains uncertain. What is certain is that ancient Egyptians had never seen anything quite like it. The more Akhenaten pushed his reforms, the more dramatic the transformation became. References to other gods diminished. Aten occupied an increasingly exclusive position. Some scholars even describe this period as one of the earliest experiments with a form of monotheism, the worship of a single god. But was it truly monotheism? That question still sparks debate. Some researchers argue that older beliefs never completely disappeared. Others suggest Aten simply became supreme while other divine concepts lingered in the background. The surviving evidence does not provide a perfect answer. Yet even with those uncertainties, the scale of the change remains astonishing. The work of Egyptologists such as Zahi Hawass and many international research teams has helped reconstruct how unusual Akhenaten's reign was compared with both earlier and later periods of Egyptian history. The greatest challenge, however, was not introducing a new religion. It was making it last. Religious systems survive because people embrace them across generations. They become woven into family traditions, local communities, and daily habits. Removing those connections is extremely difficult. Akhenaten could order temples closed. He could sponsor new monuments. He could direct royal resources toward Aten. But could he truly erase beliefs held by millions? The answer emerged shortly after his death. Within a relatively short period, the old religious order began returning. Akhenaten lost its status. Traditional gods regained prominence. The influence of Aten rapidly declined. One young ruler became especially important during this reversal. His original name was Tutankhaten, meaning living image of Aten. Later it changed to Tutankhamun, living image of Amun. Even the famous boy king's name reflects the restoration of older traditions. The message was clear. Egypt was moving back toward its religious past. The campaign against Akhenaten did not stop there. Later generations attempted to erase his memory. His monuments were dismantled. His achievements were ignored. King lists often excluded him entirely. It was almost as if Egypt wanted to pretend he had never existed. Ironically, the Pharaoh who tried to erase other gods nearly became erased himself. Centuries passed. Sand-covered buildings. Stone blocks were reused. The city of Amarna faded into ruins. Yet traces remained hidden beneath the desert landscape. Modern archaeology brought the story back into the light. Excavations at Amarna revealed houses, workshops, inscriptions, religious structures, and everyday objects that allow researchers to reconstruct life during this extraordinary experiment. The site provides a rare snapshot of a society undergoing rapid ideological change. The discoveries remind historians that ancient Egypt was not frozen in time. It was dynamic. Religious beliefs evolved, and sometimes a single individual attempted to reshape an entire civilization. Perhaps the most surprising lesson is how familiar the story feels today. Throughout history, powerful leaders have tried to redefine identity, belief, and culture. They have attempted to replace old systems with new visions of the future. Some succeeded. Others failed. Most discovered that deeply rooted traditions are far more resilient than they first appear. That tension between authority and tradition remains visible in the modern world. Ideas can spread quickly. Institutions can change. Laws can be rewritten. But beliefs carried through families and communities often survive far longer than any ruler expects.